Thank you for joining Connecticut Parent Advocacy Center's Transition Tuesday. My name is Laura Knapp. I am one of the parent consultants at Connecticut Parent Advocacy, and with me is Beth Reel, another, actually our executive director, one of our executive directors, and welcome all. I just want to remind everybody that we are recording, so just keep in mind what you're saying and what you're sharing that is going to be viewed by the public. So we are very lucky today to have Andrew Arboe with us to talk about his journey in driving. And I will just turn it over to you, Andrew, and you can introduce yourself and give us a preview of what's coming.
Well, thank you, everyone. My name is Andrew Arboe, and I'm a staff advocate with 5 years of professional autism experience. I have done work in several nonprofits and schools. My current positions include Focus Center for Autism in Connecticut, and then the Anderson Center for Autism in Newark. I actually have the background back in my head because I have to might have to do a recording in the near future. So I've always been active in the autism scenes, and one of the other areas that I talk about quite a bit everywhere, including a keynote speaking over at Autism Connections in Massachusetts on driving, which is today's topic.
And I just want to quickly remind everyone, if you can choose your language, there is a globe at the bottom of the screen in English or Spanish. So if you can go ahead and click that, we are we have Spanish interpreters with us to help with this presentation for anybody who needs Spanish interpretation.
All right, when you can now get started, unless anything else needs to get reviewed beforehand. I think we're good. Okay, we will get started on the title there, and this kind of goes over what I've already kind of discussed a little earlier, so we don't have to worry too much about it. It's just my professional history. May have to update Anderson Center for Autism, or at least include the consultation. I'm part of their consultation and the training ones. You can see the logo on behind here. So that's something I have to update for my future presentations. All right, we can move on to the next one. And I'm gonna have Beth and everyone else at CPAC can give me permission from telling me to slow down, because I do talk quite fast, and they did mention it several minutes ago. So I give them full permission to just interrupt me, just tell me I need to slow down. So just want to put that out there to make sure everyone understands this wonderful topic I'm about to do. All right, so our agenda today is kind of going over the pre-license, kind of before I drove, the post-license, and my overall accuracy, and then what driving did me overall, because I feel like driving, it represents so many different things for people. So I want to kind of go over what kind of like got for me, because at the end of the day, I'm kind of jumping ahead from the very end. But again, driving's personal, and whatever style you choose for transportation is really up to you. So with that, we get going with the pre-license portion. All right, I use these past. Go back, that's right. Thank you. I use the following past transportation auctions, not really methods. I should probably change the wording for that. Auctions I used back in 2017 and 2018. I used to do a lot of public buses, which I used for my very, very past jobs and college. Some of you might be familiar with Manchester Community College. I went there for several years for my associates and disability specialist. And then same thing with buses. I also used Ubers as well, which we downloaded Uber today because I want to make sure I'm set, because I have to replace my back brakes this Thursday. So I'm getting the way back home and the way back there so I can get my car back. So yeah, so I'm kind of going back to a little bit of my roots unintentionally, just for a brake change type of thing. and then getting rides from others like my dad or friends, and then finally trains. But this one's kind of limited because it was mostly for New Haven. Haven't used trains in years, so it's something that I did use. And you can go to the next slide. Thank you. My need for driving never came up until, and this is the same time period, 2017, 2018, or more 2017. Like it never really came up until I realized halfway in my major that I needed a license. Like a lot of the jobs, like mentoring, the picture from Indeed is a job listing. It's a job listing. I wish there was a Spanish one, but it's more of an English one. So my apologies. But in a nutshell, it's kind of like a job listing, which requires like a certain mileage for driving. So in that position, driving is pretty important, or reliable transportation is important. So I realized with this and more further research, to increase my quality of life, I needed driving in my life. Next slide. Thank you. And there's several challenges come up, and the first one was on anxiety from both myself and my dad. Well, my dad. My dad was always anxious about me driving because of my autism, and he was rightfully so for a lot of good reasons. Because people have different ways of do I need to slow down? Okay, I think that's what the hands up is. Me to slow down, just to make sure.
I think you're good. I think we're just working on assigning the second interpreter. Sorry about that, Andrew.
Okay, no problem. Just want to keep an eye out, so just want to make sure. Okay, anyway, with all like the characteristics of autism, which people could see as a disability, a difference, and that's not even going to the labels department, and that's you might want to get another speaker for that. I'm just gonna leave it at that. but autism does impact specific characteristics like executive functioning and sensory processing. And a lot of this came up, and I was self-aware about this. I was self-aware of my own anxiety, which is rightfully so, because a lot of things can happen in driving, and having driving the school van for my job at Focus Center. There were sometimes some weird drivers that do come up, so the possibility was always there. And it was up to me to make sure everyone gets there safe and be able to pick up on those dangers. So again, like all those is a good reason why my dad was anxious, but I also doubled my own anxiety at the same time. And since me and my dad are pretty much the same in personality, it was a lot of heading butts, to say the least. And then you could go next slide, and it should be the executive functioning one. Thank you. And let's go more into details of executive functioning. It pretty much deals with the split-second decision-making skills, along with time management of just how you manage your time, and how your memory kind of plays in for like short-term, long-term memory. And like for some real-life examples, including just being able to time a lane change, because before you make the change, you have to make sure you have to make sure no other cars is on your blind spots, spots around the car that you can't see, that you would have to turn your head to be able to look through the mirrors. So you have to kind of really get to time out the best possible lane change you could do, and it requires multiple steps. Same thing of going through a highway ramp, like an entrance highway ramp, where you have to kind of speed up the merge with the speed of the highway, but you also have to make sure no vehicles is on your left. You have to kind of time it well, where you have to make sure you could commit to that lane change. And if not, that'd be something that could cause accidents. So there's a lot of just judgment thinking, and just a lot of you have to make judgments like kind of on the snap or on the go might be a better way of saying it. So a lot of little steps that you have to do mentally as you drive. Next slide. And I think next slide. I think you went back one. No worries. And then another one, and another issue that came up on these resources, sorry. It's the
All right, which
resources.
slide am I on the right slide or the wrong slide? I'm sorry.
You
Andrew.
have to go back a slide. Okay, right here. Yep, no worries. And hopefully my speech doing what I can, because usually I talk way more, so want to make sure that my speed is good. Okay, cool. All right, and then another thing that came up during the same time period was the lack of resources. Lack of resources I can access on this sort of topic. Like there were fewer research studies on this topic during the time. There's quite a bit more going on, which makes me happy. Again, some are behind paywalls, which is a little annoying. But it's a bit better than what I could find before. And then there's also a lot of written content that you could find online from the parent and the organization perspective, which is really good, mind you. At the time, like I really know a lot of, like I don't see a lot of written accounts on this perspective. So a little limiting, but again, the fact that parents and organizations had at least something written up there is a lot better than none, right? So I guess there's like that disconnect I felt, but again, parents and organizations do great. And then finally, I'm going to try to keep the bashing of Connecticut to a minimum here. But during the same time period, and if you see a dog, my brother's dog just came in my room, so in case he shows up. But in Connecticut, there was several special education and other like disability conferences that I went to. And they focused a lot more on buses, public transportation, more than driving. So during that time, I never saw anything that came up. And CPAC and Beth might have noticed this too. It's kind of interesting going for insights. And I was one of their presenters for it was called the Connecticut Secondary Transition Symposium. Unless Beth, you are not there. If not, I apologize, but pretty sure you're there. But there wasn't really anything and I don't want to bash the symposium. Definitely not. But at the time, there wasn't any like topics or workshops kind of like this that really talked about this. So again, never saw anything that stood out. And let me know how I did in not bashing Connecticut, because technically I could go a lot more into this. Again, not entirely all Connecticut's fault. There's not a lot of driving instructors that are specialized in autism too. So it's kind of more of a training issue more than a state thing. So you could always say the state could do better, but then the state also has some other issues. So it's definitely multi-where type of things. All right, now we can go to the next slide and no worries about before. All right, and then the next ish. And this was before I went to the next street driving school. And
Desde que fuera a la escuela.
Huh?
Oh.
Apologies, we're having a little bump with the interpretation.
Oh, did we? Oh, can we go back to slide 10? I thought there was an extra. I thought there was a slide talking about driving school. If not, I apologize.
Let's see, Laura, I think you need to put them both back in now. Let's let Laura do that and then we'll go back to the slides. Sorry.
Thank you, Beth. Yeah, because otherwise I'm
No
going to have
problem.
to speak on top of you.
Yeah. Yeah, no, Laura's doing all of the things and I don't have any controls for some reason. So I'm sorry that I can't help out, Laura. Sorry, Andrew.
That's
Apologies.
okay.
No worries. No
I
worries.
did say,
Not a problem.
I said I wanted to learn more about technology earlier today, so I'm getting my practice.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think I have to go back out and go back in because it did this last time. Okay.
Okay, no problem.
We apologize. We just want to make sure that we get the interpretation.
Nos disculpamos, estamos teniendo un poquito de problemas técnicos para organizar la interpretación. Entonces, por favor, paciencia y muchas gracias.
Yeah, it's just not. Okay, good. I think we got it.
What's up?
I think we're all set.
Assigned?
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yes,
Someone
they're
called me.
both
So,
assigned. Okay.
Okay, excellent. So we
All
need,
right.
I need to go back a slide.
Yeah.
yeah, I felt like Chris when I had us right on driving school experience on back. I mean, back is right.
That one.
Yes, that one.
Okay, apologies, everyone. Let's
Okay,
try
no
again.
problem. No problem. No
You'll get
worries.
one day, but okay,
Okay.
take it away.
Okay. Anyway, after some like a couple months of practice on parking lots, both me and my dad agreed that I should go to a driving school locally, and I'm in Central Connecticut, just for context. Close to West Hartford, Maine, Hartford, downtown Hartford, and surrounding cities. And I went to the Next Street schools. They have several locations. They have one in Avon. They have one in the Avon area. I chose not to disclose my autism, which could even be another topic on its own of how you disclose your autism. And there's a lot of the personal factors that go into that. And I mainly just wanted to be in a regular classroom for it to probably come pretty close of revealing it, but I want to be in a regular classroom. Just like, why not? And the experience was pretty handy, especially especially their behind the wheels trainings. Like it being on those local roads, and one of the things that they did at me, that they provide structuralized lessons. So they go to parking lots in schools. They kind of go over everything with me. And it's like they don't put you on a highway right away. They just build you up. And if you're able to do highways at their fourth lesson, wonderful. But if not, not the worst thing. And they also provide they provided like a packet of what you could work on outside of the driving school, which is pretty nice. Like I still got some of those, kept some of it after all these years. So I had a lot more time to get used to the executive functioning aspect of driving, and I saw that with more things I could pull off getting a license. Aside, and also important was to just having more time to replace that anxiety. All right, next slide. Yep. And then another issue. Oh, okay, yeah, it's the right one. I have to get used to seeing two different languages there. My bad. Don't want to give you all extra work on that one. But even before going to Next Street, an issue that was always there was my own schedule. Because back when I was studying at Manchester Community College, I worked part-time in several positions. So during the weekdays, I had little time to practice. So I had no choice to practice on the weekends, which I don't recommend. It's something that something that you can do, worst case, but I don't recommend it. And also my dad who works full-time in construction landscape. So there's no way you could get with the weekday drives in. So I had to kind of figure out how to practice on the weekends to be able to kind of get the skills needed for the will test. And that is where I realized I need to create my own driver's routine to ensure that experience. Next slide. I use these following areas for my routine. I went to video game stores locally and found out that because it's something I'm into, I'm able to not only I can drive there, I can kind of plan it out where it has a purpose. And because I like video games, want to see, they have like this awesome store called Retro Game Plus. They have both new and old games. So naturally, as I had a liking for retro games, it's a good place when you drive, and it's not in the most annoying part of the Berlin Turnpike. So that works even more in my favor. So it's like, why not? It's something that worked for me. And same thing with work events. I'm always like looking at the latest autism events for New England. Like if I'm able to go to any places in Massachusetts, I would be doing that now. But I'm kind of letting my car take a break, also because it breaks. So I don't want anything to happen to me. So I always like to network myself and go out go out, and if I was able to drive to that symposium 5 years ago, I would have loved to, but hey, next time, as an example. And then just active centers or social outings. I'm trying to think of this in context that makes sense, and don't know if anyone's familiar with Brubeck Square in West Hartford. It's the closest to like an active town center, or if you're in Silverton, there's the downtown side of Silverton that has, like the walking trail. They have these restaurants, including an arcade, which I also recommend. Gamecraft is pretty amazing in their arcade over there. And like those can give you a lot of good reasons. And if you can deal with the parking, but if you deal with the parking and just have whoever with you just drop you off after you did your drive there, it's kind of like a win, and you're able to still go out and socialize, and also you can get some extra unintentional driving experience. It's like, why not? And then finally, I also used a weekend job with Autism Fairness Connecticut. They were in Berlin, Connecticut. They used to be in Newton. I went to their old Newton location way back, and it was a good filled with like local roads, a lot of different exposure to the basic driving things that drivers need to know. So it was like a good way for me to be able to take in a lot of the experiences that I did from the next street and be able to do it on the most, maybe not every weekend, but at least something I could use it for. So, and because I'm motivated, because I want to go to that job, it was facilitating different social outings, and one of those included Lego group, which is really neat. Really neat. So I was able to get that experiences, and I was keep getting more use, and it was to the point where I was able to do longer drives because of that experience. So it was just something that helped me over time. All right, next slide. Thank you. And then finally came the well test on October 30th, 2018. I did everything I needed to do with getting the driver skills, and now the main thing up. You go back a slide. That's a little too quick. Back. It's the October 30th slide. Okay, good.
I apologize. It's very touchy anytime I go my
No
cursor,
worries.
it goes. So I do apologize.
No worries. And now the main challenge was to just kind of like calming any nerves that I had during that time, because again, what's the way up and got to this point, and because Connecticut has I will arouse some Connecticut bashing. I don't like the 2-year limit on renter's permit. Like, if you need more time, they really shouldn't prioritize you against you. Like, if you need more time, that's honestly isn't a bad thing. You need more time. So that's one thing I do have against Connecticut there. So there was that also I had to think about too. And then how to kind of be able to calm myself. I actually use a memory towards a video game's final boss. I'll be vague. It's kind of not the most kid-friendly game out there. Where I went from an action, like a violent game, into a music ribbon game. Don't ask me why. I play a lot of weird video games in my lifetime. And it was something that was getting me like enraged with me just trying to beat it. And it took me 9 months to actually beat this part of the game, because it was like literally the final boss of the game. And then how I was able to beat it was realizing I had to be calm, because it had really strict rules. Like, if you get hit once, you're dead, and you have to redo the 7 minutes again. So when I was able to be calm, I got a bit more into it, and eventually I beat it. So I remember that memory. So because I remember that memory, I remember that I have to be calm on this. I mean, granted, obviously video games and real life are very different. I definitely want to put that out there. I know I just state the obvious, but always good to do so. So I remember the memory, the feelings I felt during that experience. And when the driving inspector kind of showed me to my car and just doing the test, I just remember I had to do that and just ask about directions, and also had to be mindful of speed limits. There's a few spots they have to test you, so ask kind of toy with you to see if you remember these speed limits, because some boards could trick you and you have to go a bit slower compared to the other world that's like 30 miles per hour. So that was something else I have to think about. And I was able to do it, and I passed, and it led to 2 things. Next slide. Well, the first major one was, I'm sorry, there it goes. I went a little too quick. Was I felt a sense of relief on getting my license. It basically meant that I was able, would be 3 things. I also have to reword this again. Like, like thanks to this license, I was able to make full advantage of the disability specialist degree without worrying a lot on transportation limitations. Like I could drive to that position if I really wanted to. I mean, I was working in Prineville schools during that time, but if I wanted to go apply, it made a lot more sense. And the only limitations I've had is education levels, bachelor's. Depending on your experience, some places can take you in, but you need like that bachelor's for some very specific roles that you need. So that's the main thing I'm working on, over half in my college. But anyway, and with all of that out of the way, I started back on local roles, mostly for the school job I had during that time as a job coach, just to kind of get that routine in order, because I didn't want to get full of myself, stayed local, and it caused my dad to be a lot less anxious that way, and it just made sense in general. So I started small before I started to tackle longer trips, or pretty much the highway, and went from there. And then next slide. The last one was correct. The one before this. Yeah, the first step of advocating. Probably a messy mouse. Oh, almost. Yep, that looks good. I recognize the DSS. All right, and then I also started my first step of advocating for myself and advocating for like some sort of a resource out there. So I created a PowerPoint that's like this, but except it was very kind of rough draft. I created it because I wanted to share this with special education departments and different organizations out there. I mean, I'm in my mindset when I was like developing this, and well, I think it was at Barnes Nobles in my very old laptop. I found myself, if no one else was advocating, I might as well give it a go. Like it would be a voice, and then having even as like singular voice is better than no voice out there. And after I completed, and this one's kind of more like not too meaningful. It was pretty cool the first time, but it's kind of like, hey, whatever, it's a good start. I was able to put this on my state's in Connecticut's Department of Social Services autism page as a resource. And it's definitely rough draft. You probably look at it and the colors were bright, a little too bright. So, but hey, it's a beginning step, so it makes sense. But the excitement is still there, developing that sort of thing. And then finally, and we can go into the July 2019 slide. All right, and then on July 23rd, 2019, I did my first ever presentation with Connecticut Family Support Network. They have civil districts throughout all Connecticut, and they always do workshops. They also have a lot of different resources that they wish to be able to kind of help you find kind of just about anything that you want to find out. If something like mental health, disabilities, like autism, like they have someone that be kind of guide you through a particular resource, and they also have occasional workshops. So if you're looking for something in your area, they are a good bet to look into. And then with them, I was able to do my first ever presentation with them. Like when I found out I was able to do this, I got super stoked just because I had no idea how it's going to look like. I mean, I had all the materials, but I didn't know how much people would be interested in. And like, I knew there'd be some interest just because I'd never seen anyone in Connecticut presented on a topic like this. So I would have been able to kind of get people's reactions. And for the first one, and this is an actual picture of it, I think I took it off on Facebook, from their Facebook, and this pretty much is about 30 people showed up, including three different companies. So even for its kind of doesn't represent the whole population, but it was still kind of impressive for the time being. Like it was kind of really cool to have this local gathering happen. And I had a brass present in this. Like you see me present, I have shorter hair and I still have a bit shorter hair. I had to get a haircut several weeks ago, so I prefer curly hair. So what can you do? but it was a success, and it just landed me to a lot of different other opportunities. So that we go to a quick timeline, we're going to try to avoid boosting as possible. But again, just kind of showing off how my advocating kind of took off for all these civil years up to this point.
You want me next
Yeah,
slide?
yeah. Sorry. I was hoping you got that, but I should have said it first. So no worries. All right, and then after the July 2019, I went to a partnership with the Next Street driving schools and to kind of help them with their program at the time. Unfortunately, they don't do it anymore, but they used to have this called Driving with Autism Spectrum Disorder. I helped them to launch that program and kind of enjoyed the kind of like the first several reactions toward it, and just the experiences of collaborating with people, figuring out how to present like materials, what topics. So it was an interesting experience. And I also won like 2 publications for Autism Spectrum News. They're a newspaper in the New England area, and they do a lot of local Connecticut papers use it as well. The Yale Child Study Center has some. Places like Vesper Life, Informations, and Chapel Haven, they've done several articles on it. So it's a good autism resource. And then during my time with Plan Called Spectrum, very quick, I did a lot of online consultations with parents and new drivers, just kind of like going over what they could use in their area. Because, when COVID-19 came in, like a lot of things went virtual, and that opened the door, you could kind of talk to other states, which is still kind of crazy. So I was able to kind of engage the families in different states, and it was a good time just getting to know their perspectives. And that's kind of the main thing that really matters with me. Just kind of get to it, so I'm able to kind of provide and suggest ideas for them, and it'd be up to them to be able to enact on that. And I've also spoken multiple conferences like the World Autism Conference and the Autism Society of Greater Phoenix, also online. Next slide. And then from December 2020, I can't even speak today, 2021 to November 22, I launched Driving with Autism to provide a webinar series for families to help them with driver readiness. It's more online, so it's like eight topics. I was the founder during that time. And just due to like personal perseverances, I don't want it anymore, which is unfortunate, but it was a good experience of just kind of learning new things, like some business skills of learning how to engage in social media. So it was also a really interesting experience. And then I also spoke for a couple for like 2 other different conferences, including I was part of the Hudson Valley Autism Conference in Newark. And 2 months ago, almost 2 months ago, this year, I spoke as a keynote speaker. And again, it's not on sale. Just want to give people a heads up. You could look at the blogs, but I'm not offering that. I'm not part of the program anymore, which is unfortunate, but you kind of see how it would have looked like. Just want to put it out there. I don't want to let people have any misinformation on that. So it's no longer on sale. Again, unfortunate, but it is what it is. So I was a keynote speaker for Autism Connections in Springfield, Massachusetts, and I actually spoke with Jennifer, who's also on the picture there, and she was a consultant on the Netflix special on Love on the Spectrum, which is pretty cool. It was also a really fun day of just kind of presenting my first ever time keynote speaking, which is very different. And then before I go to the next slide, I was introduced to the American, kind of the Association for Driving Rehab Specialists. They are a educational organization that helps driver rehab specialists learn how to work with specific populations. And I wrote an article for them for one of their newsletters in November, which is also really cool. Next slide. And I don't want to brag too much. Thank you. And then 2 of the more current things this year is for the state of Connecticut, I retained my public driver endorsement, which in Connecticut is called activity vehicles. So I can drive people through to the community, which is what I do for Focus Center for Autism. Again, it has rewards. I've never driven a van before, and right now it's second nature, and it's almost kind of scary how I'm already kind of used to it. Because I have different mindsets for when I normally drive and when I drive the school van, because different expectations. And while I don't always get to listen to video game music, which is something I do in my regular one, I had to really accept that, and I just have the radio on to whatever the students want. So, hey, not a big deal, right? And then I also have a project on my public speaking website, and Beth, it's on my email signature in case you want to find the easiest link. If you want to post it, I could wait until after presenting, so it's not a problem. I also started a blog project called the Autism and Driving Resource Database, where I almost lost the train of thought, but I go over resources that are in each state. Like Connecticut, I put down issue seals. Like I can find anything that parents could use as a resource, and kind of wisdom, just to make it so there's a resource for people. So you don't have to search endlessly. Like you could see these things and be like, okay, I can try it. I can give them a try. Unfortunately, there's some states there is not a lot you can do, not too much to do. So you might have to resort to a regular driving school. But at the very least, like kind of knowing what could be in your state is kind of what gives you options to choose from. So I kind of did it that way. I have about over 20 states listed, so I still have a bit more to kind of do. And right now it's a little chaotic time, but I know I will get there. I will get there and have all 50 states up. So, yep, one of my goals. Next slide. So, kind of the main thing is, what did driving give to me? And there's several different things that it gave to me. Next slide. The confidence is definitely a big one. Like I saw it as a way, like I saw driving just something I could be my best at. Like it ends up like being able to drive enhances like my work life, and it just draws a lot of people into these sort of presentations. And when I do like blogs and other written like experiences, it often drives people to experience, because I kind of feel like, to me, I could be a little bit mistaken, because people are multifaceted. Like people in general want to be able to do great work and just be able to go socially to places. So when they see this, and they can feel like they can relate into how driving empowers me as a person. And before I go, because I usually bring it up in the beginning, it's spread from my mind, is I don't want like my experiences to be like a kind of like a, like how all things should go. That's definitely not the case. I don't think there was a lot of people that be like me, and I use a lot of video game music for me to drive. For the picture, that's an old picture. I used to have a Matrix. My brother who gifted it, and I loved the car. Unfortunately, I had a gas leak, so I had to switch to a Subaru 3 years ago. So, but I enjoyed the time nevertheless. And you could see in a picture that there are some video game soundtracks when I had a CD player, and it was a lot of fun to be able to listen to my favorite video games on the go, and it never distracted me. It gave me a hyper focus, where like even if I'm in the not the greatest moods out there, it's there to help. And it's something I like. So that's something that can like helps add a routine to your driving. Same thing. I also listen to old Hollywood movies on the go, like kind of like condensed versions. They call it the Lags Feeder show, name escapes me, but it's like an old radio Hollywood show. They have like adapted radio forms of movies like Wizard of Oz. It happened one night. Like they have some big classics, even a jazz singer too. So when I can find one, there's good quality. There's a few that has some unfortunate sound issues. I had to kind of ignore them, which is unfortunate. Like can be really interesting. Like I even listened to a Alfred Hitchcock movie one time, Strangers on the Train, all the way down to Route 5, like after the tunnel in the New Haven Orange side. So that was quite interesting, navigating that interesting side of Connecticut highways, or if you can even call it a highway, while listening to Alfred Hitchcock on the way. Not every day I get to do that, and it still makes amusing reactions. I'm already see Beth and a few others having a good time with it. Just the things that I just end up liking, and just enhances my work. And next slide. before I can go in even more details on the things I watch and listen to. And it also gave me, pardon me, 4.5 years traveling. I want that to say 5 so bad, but it's not October, so I can't. Next time it'll be 5 years. I can like proudly put that on there. But I use it for both work and recreational. Like I've gone, as mentioned, I did a lot of driving and I went to conferences and resource fairs in Massachusetts. I've met near kind of like autism organizations in the New England area, which includes obviously Connecticut, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and then upstate New York. Not gonna drive in city, like not gonna happen. Like, sorry, I'd rather just do a train. It makes more sense, either that or Peter Pan. Like actually driving there, yeah, no thanks. No thanks. So I kind of been in those states, and then I do go for recreational trips too. Biggie, that's a popular one. Just have a parking gate in your memory. Make sure you can get there, and then pray for your life that it doesn't take a while, which it will probably will, but just kind of try to stick to a parking lot and something walkable. So just save some stress. And also went to Foxwoods for not the actual casino reason, but because they have cheesecake, Junior's Cheesecake, which is a big in New York City and beats going to Newark, so why not? Including some movie showings. Some anime fans, I don't know if anyone here watch anime, but I've seen several of the Studio Ghibli movies on the big screen. It's also a lot of fun. It happened a few years before I started driving. I always regretted not being able to go to the movie theater because getting back would have been an issue. But with driving, I was able to kind of do those things and had a great time. This was back in pre-COVID. And then I also did 2 ambitious drives, one last year and one this year. Last year, I drove all the way to Watertown, Mass for a restaurant owned by John Taffer, who does Bar Rescue, a reality show where he goes to questionable bars and fix them, and also be able to fix people to the best he can, for better or worse. He opened up a restaurant in Watertown, Massachusetts, and I was like, closest location beats DC or Georgia, so let's go in my mind. And I planned it for months, and I did no tours. I've never been a fan of tours, so played around GPS to see how possible it was before I even attempted it. And I went back in September and had a good time. It was a good drive. It was a little hectic when you get close to the Watertown side, but I've made it work. Used everything I learned from all this time and got to eat at a place where he's associated up, so I can't complain. I would love to go there again, but it is a 2-hour drive, so gas is a little up there. So, and then I also went to New Hampshire this year, which is something I've never done before. And it was 4 hours there, 4 hours back, and I went for Fun Spot. It's an arcade, one of the largest in the country, with about over 600 games. I don't think it's the largest one, but it's pretty large. And I went on Good Friday this year, and it was great. Like, had a good time. 4 hours there, 4 hours back, and I made it work with several breaks, and yeah, coffee too. So I really enjoy getting myself out there and just going through these places. Just kind of keep seeing how far I can go. Might include tours because I might be presenting in New Jersey, so we'll see how that goes. And yeah, I'm gonna go from there. Next slide. And then finally, and probably part all of you probably have gotten this to the point or reaching the same conclusion, was driving gave me a voice. And it also taught me just being able to listen to that inner voice inside you and not let anything or anyone stop you. And you being able to take charge of your own life and then selecting the transportation option that you want to make. Because again, driving is not for everyone. Like, it can be dangerous. I ran into some questionable drivers, even in my school driving days, in my drive schooling days recently. Okay, someone today that didn't realize that was a lane that was blocked off due to construction, and they almost tried to skip a school van. So it's like, I was like, excuse me. And I also told students tell them that this is a lesson of what you don't do in driving. I mean, I'm not sure if anyone could drive in there or not in the near future, but I kind of want instead to be like a good learning example to kind of show the students what not to do. So like, there are some reckless drivers out there, and those who just made mistakes, may not do anything, or those that we want to realize that they messed up and I will do better, which pretty much I try to do that as much as possible. So again, so driving can be scary at times. It kind of how you depend and how you feel safe using this sort of auction. And then just because it gave me a voice, it allowed me to be kind of constantly keep going. Like I would have done a Massachusetts and New Hampshire trips like that. And if I wasn't growing, and that helped me kind of grow more as a person. So those pretty much are the reasons. And next slide, first sure I'm near the end. Wait, I'm going until the subtitles go in. Okay, there it goes. Where can you find me? Next slide. You can find me on Andrew Arboe at webread.com. Unfortunately, I don't have a Spanish one, but thankfully, but if you have someone that knows Spanish, they might be able to transfer that for you. That's a possibility. But it's pretty much my public speaking website. It goes over my topics. I also has the blog of the autism and driving resource database that I want to update as regularly as possible. And also has publications, writings I did, and videos of my own work. So be sure to check those out. And I want to thank Beth and CPAC for including those links in there. So you'll be able to look at it right away. It's up to all of you, no pressure. And then then this should be the final slide next. Yeah. All right, and thank you all for attending this. Hope my speed was pretty good. I didn't hear any complaints, so going from that. And my contact information, I can also post in the email right here. So I'm gonna do that. And we can go to Q&A. And while I'm here, I'm also gonna get you I'm gonna get you a direct link to the driving resources. So I'm gonna get that for all of you.
Thank you so much, Andrew. Are there any questions? I think there was.
Hi. My name is
Hello.
Kim, and I am extremely proud of you. You've done quite well, and especially driving students around. That's amazing. That's great. One of the things I want to ask about is the driver's permit. How did that go for you? And do you have to take regular, or they have other options where they could read it for you, or how did that work for you?
I went to the Verisfield location, kind of the classic like DMV area. I used them for the permit test. And I'm pretty sure they offer the audio one. They have like an audio version where you use the headphones, at least going by memory. And I don't know if they changed a lot since then. And I tell people, and I also technically on the old Driving with Autism page, when I was a founder, I think I have a blog on the DMV that people can look up. And again, it depends on the state, and also, the separate locations may have different resources. I was always told that the Cheshire location is kind of more quiet one, that they just do the permit test. So that might be a good option, but of course, distance means everything. And sometimes you may not be able to go that far.
Okay.
So what? So
I
pretty much
jump in?
upside.
Oh, I
Oh,
was
go
just gonna
ahead.
say, do you mind if I jump in, Andrew?
Sure.
Because I just wanted to say too, I've heard that the Cheshire location, I brought actually both of my sons there, and they did have the computer with the audio, with the headphones, as an option, so that it is, you don't have to have a reader or a person to do it.
With the headphones.
Yeah. So people with accommodations have to take the same test. It's not, you don't get fewer questions or anything like that, which was a shock for my son, who received special education services. He failed the test the first time. Andrew, you passed the first time, so that's awesome.
Yeah, 2 times. One expired because I realized I needed more time, and also I was kind of getting used to the transition. Like I did when I just turned 21, and I realized some things I needed to work on. And I did kind of forget about it. I want to get myself more used to Manchester outside of being a post-high school program, and was getting used to a part-time job during that time. So I probably could have did more, and I probably should have, but it never came across until a little later on when I realized it became a lot more of a need. So
Actually, at this time, I'm going to launch a poll while we're taking questions and providing answers.
Does anybody else have a question? You guys are probably all looking at the poll now. Andrew, I
I'll
have a
ask
question.
another one.
Yeah, go ahead, Kim.
I was wondering, your conversation with your dad, at what point did you feel comfortable talking about driving and working with your dad to get through the process?
I think it was on and off. I think it was just kind of when I went back to the permit, when I went back to doing the permit test, I think that kind of started. I pretty much went back to that. And then once I actually got it, that's when the practicing kind of comes in,
Mhm, mhm.
which again makes sense. Like I can't think of anyone that went practicing outside. I mean, other than different vehicles, like I actually knew some people that use tractors and trained around that.
Mhm.
And I didn't realize it at first, but it seems a bit silly, but jet ski has some similar driving characteristics because you have to use your different tension ones. And it might apply to everyone because it was recreational during, and it was over in South Carolina where it's a lot more common to go on jet skis.
Oh,
And it wasn't until like almost 5 years when I last time I did it, and I was like, this feels similar to driving. This feels kind of similar to driving, just how you have to look both ways, follow directions, don't hit anyone else with the jet ski, keep an eye on dolphins and whatnot in case they're out there, because a couple dolphins were around, or hope was dolphins, but not to scare anyone. But there's some similar and kind of how you keep them in speed, because there are state laws over there that you can't go fast, or you have to kind of go at a certain like speed. So it was pretty specific.
mhm.
Andrew, there's a question in the chat. Where did you sign up? Where did you go to sign up for your permit?
I went to the Wethersfield DMV, like online. Pretty sure I scheduled it online, to my knowledge.
I think you have to go on the DMV website and sign up.
Yes.
Did you use the Easter Seals driving evaluation?
No, I didn't. I never really contacted them. It wasn't until after when I was doing a lot more advocating on the driving scene where I realized that they could be a really good resource. I wish I was able to kind of do a bit more over there. But maybe some point in the future, I'm going first things just gotta take care of a few things first. And it's all in good time. So eventually eventually things will happen.
Well, they do before you go for your license. When you get your permit, they have an evaluation that a person can go to have done, but it's an on-the-road evaluation as well as a simulator.
I like that.
So in my experience with my son, who I think is about the same age as Andrew, maybe just a little older, also named Andrew, we weren't sure about reaction time. We weren't sure about attention. And this simulator was really helpful to determine that, yes, he actually would be able to do it, but also then what he needed to focus on for practice. So it is a little on the expensive side. Some insurances cover it, I think, but it's been a while since I've spoken with anybody over there. So I did put the link in the chat for people who are interested in talking with somebody about that.
Oh, so there's a fee associated with that.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if they have any, sometimes programs like that have like scholarships and things like that. I'm not sure about that. So I would encourage people to call who are interested in checking that out. Any other questions for Andrew?
Yes, Andrew, I have some questions. Then they give you some accommodations for time when you do the test or no?
Don't think so, or I never really brought it up. It was all multiple choice.
Oh, okay, because sometimes I have a lot of people that are asking me that questions, and then I was going to ask you, do you think maybe it's something that that would be helpful for any kind of devices, like maybe like an extra mirror or something to help you,
Do you mind
or
repeating
no?
that? Do you mind repeating that? Not sure if I'm
Yeah,
familiar with it.
yeah. Do you think maybe that it would be helpful if maybe you have in the car maybe like extra mirror or something to help you or no? Or you don't
Um,
found anything like
not,
anything like additional?
not sure to be honest.
Thank you, Andrea.
I was just trying to look to see if there was extended time.
I don't think so.
Nah, I don't think so either.
I
but-
think it's as long as you need it. I think.
I'm not sure if it's a time test in the first place, but it
No,
might
it's
be.
I don't think it's timed. It might
It's
not
not.
be timed. It's different from when I took my driver's license. It
not.
was timed way back in the day. So I was wondering, has anybody used the Kennedy Center at all? Or
They do travel training tend to be more buses. I don't know if
Yeah.
they actually got one, but tend more the ones, but I'm pretty sure they might. It's a possibility. I would call them first because they do have travel training.
Yeah, I can't find it at my fingertips, but that's something we should take a look at when we and add it to our resources.
absolutely. And they changed their name too to the something.
The other things that can be really helpful too are the practice tests. There's lots
Yeah.
of practice tests online, and the driver's manual now, at one time it wasn't available via audio, so I was looking for readers to put it through for my son. I ended up reading it to him myself a lot of the times, but now you can have it in audio format, I believe in English and Spanish. I'm not sure if they have any other languages. But there are all these things that, that are available to help people that need like the repetition. If you listen to the book over and over again, or practice the questions over and over again, it can be very helpful. Laura, I'm sorry I
Nope,
interrupted you.
that's okay. Actually, there's several of the students that I have encountered that is a part of their IEP, not the driving portion, but going over the book, going over the instructions, how to drive.
Oh yeah,
all
for
the
sure.
Yes.
Always a good thing if you're able to. And again, it's a lot different. Multitasking in the background, so apologies. But it's always good to be able to kind of do these things early. And if it's a thing that your school is able to do, again, it all varies. So it's kind of like good to see if it's possible. So I am hearing a lot more talk on that, so that makes me quite happy. Again, multitasking, that died. So anyway, any other questions? I want to make sure I didn't miss anything. Was there anything? Oh, I see more in the chat. Any other questions?
Not seeing any other questions. I'm going to add the DMV site for Brian, who asked about where to sign up the permit, because there's a link on that website. But no, I'm not seeing any other questions. Did anybody else want to raise their hand and ask something? Okay. Thank you, Andrew, and thank you for everyone who came tonight. And you have Andrew's contact information, and you're always welcome to reach out to CPAC as well with questions.
Absolutely. Thank you. And we look forward to seeing folks on our next Transition Tuesday. We are taking a break for the summer and look for us in August. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for
Thank you,
being
Brian.
here.
Nice presentation.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Great presentation.